There's a difference between scholarly research, which is accredited, which you can cite sources, which there are studies done.
Yeah, but isn't that too deep if you're trying to just do
that's
triage
what you should,
research?
No, that's what you should be doing.
But everybody's not a researcher. Can
then
we
you
give
should
them some best practices?
No, now I'm going to get fired up.
All right, awesome.
Okay, here's a best practice. If you
You're
don't
welcome,
know,
I did my job.
If you don't know how to do research, you should hire someone to do it.
This is the episode that you have asked for.
Me?
No, not you. The 13 viewers out there
all
who are
right.
watching us.
Give the people what they want.
Well, I gotta answer the DMs, and they're like, tell us more about research. Not the way T does it on Traction, but real research.
That's where I do it.
So we're going to talk about research today at the New Followers podcast.
Sure.
T, Bob, back again, drinking maybe bourbon to my Scotch loving people that made fun of me.
I just got no interest in Scotch.
I obviously don't know what I'm doing. So
Listen, I think you're either a Scotch person or you're a bourbon person. I think you can be a rye person and a bourbon person, but
I like a nice rye.
yeah,
That's research. We should do research after this.
yeah,
Okay. Rye bourbon, not Scotch.
no. It's just too smoky for me, too peaty.
The only smoky I like is brisket.
I do love a brisket. Yeah.
All right. Well, when we go to our office in Louisville to do the manufacturing tour, we can get some barbecue
I hope so.
and bourbon.
That's my main prerogative, man. If there's bourbon
Should it be
involved,
a road trip?
If
or
there's
fly?
bourbon involved, I'm in. I don't know. I'm nervous to get on a plane right now. I don't know if you know,
Why?
but they are falling out of the sky, man.
I just landed like 3 days ago. Didn't fall out of a sky.
I don't know. There's something weird going on.
Okay. Well, I'll do any trip.
If my buddy Elon Musk is in charge of the frickin'
Here we
FAA.
go. Okay, this is on research.
I don't want to. Yeah, I've done the research.
No, this is
He's
on. No,
bonkos.
this episode is on research.
Yeah, I've done the research, Bob.
You've done the. He is not part of the FAA.
He's taking it over because he wants Starlink to control it.
Is this on research?
I did the research.
Okay. So let's talk about research. How do you approach research, T, beside the whole diatribe you just had on this?
Well, there's many kinds of research, but we're going to break it down, or at least I would break it down between firsthand and secondhand research. Okay.
I have a 3-step process, but let's hear yours first.
Well, I mean, I didn't come up with firsthand and secondhand, but
Oh, it's not your creation?
no, this is, when you learn about scholarly research, this is what they talk about.
How about not scholarly research, just business, like inventor?
But not scholarly research isn't, I got no time for it.
Okay.
What's the point?
You're
Not scholarly research is like the crunchy Granola Moms groups that are like, I heard in my yoga class that if you stare at the sun for 9 minutes in the morning, you don't need to do anything else for the rest of the day.
Who do you hang out with? No, who do you hang out with? And where did that voice come from?
Just myself. Just hang out with me.
Where did that voice come from?
Because there are people that go like, I did my research, man. I Googled it and I watched a lot of YouTube. And now I
there's
know.
very bad research, and that's why our viewer
Right, so
asked
that's
us
what
about
I'm
how to
saying.
research.
There's a difference between scholarly research, which is accredited, which you can cite sources, which there are studies done.
Yeah, but isn't that too deep if you're trying to just do
that's
triage
what you should,
research?
No, that's what you should be doing.
But everybody's not a researcher. Can
then
we
you
give
should
them some
hire.
best
No,
practices?
now I'm going to get fired up.
All right, awesome.
Okay, here's a best practice. If you
You're
don't
welcome.
know,
I did my job.
If you don't know how to do research, you should hire someone to do it.
Okay,
That's it.
Well, give us your, and then we'll debate.
So
Because I have different research than you do.
then I can tell already what you're talking about then isn't research. Because research
You're going to
isn't
say my research doesn't work?
research isn't subjective. It's objective, right?
No, that's not true. You can read. We can read the
No,
same report. We can read the
nope,
same
nope,
report, and I'm hitting the table, so I'm getting yelled at already. We can read the same report and come up with 2 different perspectives on that report.
2 different perspectives from the report is one thing, but what the research says is objective. The scientific.
I don't believe any research is objective. It's all biased.
That's
It's what you want to prove.
Nope. Not if you did the scientific method correctly.
Give me one thing that hasn't been disproved over time. That was Bible at one point.
That's not the point. The point is that you are creating a methodology to remove your bias. That is the whole thing of the scientific method.
We had a whole episode on that.
Right. That's the whole point of the scientific method.
Okay, so just give us your scholarly research.
It's not mine. There's a definition of scholarly research.
Just make it your own, T. Come on.
The whole point is that are you looking at facts of things that have removed bias, that have followed procedures, that have controls and variables, that have... Right? Because I can sit here and go, no, I saw online. There was one that just happened. It was all over Instagram. Everyone said, this thing, you know, I have a 1-year-old, so I'm dialed in. My algorithm's dialed into the new dad stuff. And it was like all upset because there's high fructose corn syrup in infant formula. There should never be this, blah, blah, blah. There's no baby formula with high fructose corn syrup. None. Because babies,
social media BS.
Right,
that's
because
what it is, yeah.
babies can't digest it. Now, there are some that have corn syrup because it mimics, from what I understand, it mimics the fat profile of breast milk and can be absorbed, but that's not high fructose
so you're
corn
playing
syrup.
Stupid on that?
No. So what I'm saying is like I can sit here and go, I did my research and I went online.
That's not research.
That's my point, is that research isn't going online and saying, other people said there's high fructose corn syrup.
We finally agree on something.
Right. So that's the difference between secondhand research and firsthand research. Secondhand research is you went out and did actual studies, right? Whether it be surveys,
interviews. We don't like surveys. Surveys don't tell us anything.
Surveys they're quantitative. They're part of the process.
They're not quantitative.
A survey done correctly is a good quant start.
Start. Thank you.
Right. So that's part of the process. Because it doesn't give you
habit and process. It gives you attitude and bias.
So this is why the scientific method matters, because it goes after what are you trying to determine, right? Now, a hypothesis, Robert, is something that you are posturing in the beginning, right? You go, I think this will happen. That's your bias. I think if I drop this cup, it will fall and hit the ground at a rate of 9.81 meters per second squared.
Go the law of gravity.
Right? Okay, so then,
Newton. Let's go.
Then I develop a test to be able to test that removes, and the whole point of a well-performed test is it removes my bias from it, so that even if I go, no, I think it's going to fall at 100 meters per second, the test will tell me whether that's right or wrong.
Are we in Europe right now?
So
I think we still deal with inches and feet here
so
in America.
The point is that your research should be guided to follow that scientific method, remove your bias from it, have a control group, have a variable group, and then you get to the end where your outcome will either prove or disprove your hypothesis. Now, this is also a good time to point out the difference, because people say a lot of times, I have a theory. I have a theory.
That's not true.
A theory is also a specific thing. A theory is proven. You know what I mean? So if you're saying, I have a theory that everybody needs red Solo cups in their back seat, and therefore I'm going to make this product that's a red Solo cup dispenser for your back seat. That's not a theory. That's your hypothesis.
That's genius, by the way.
The red Solo cup
make
thing?
it.
Okay. So determine your hypothesis, determine a way to test it that now that's firsthand research.
Can we give an example as an inventor or a business owner?
Yeah, sure.
Because we're very up in the clouds, and
all right.
Our people want, what can I do today to fix what I'm doing wrong?
So it depends on what they're doing. But
that's what I'm saying. Can we use an example?
I'll give you a real life example for the Type 57X bikes, right? You say to me, you have 2 prototypes. Does it work? And I go, yep. And you go, how do you know? And I go, I rode it. Okay, well, how else do you know? I had other people ride it. And what'd they say? They said it rode great. Okay, well, that's very subjective. So then I say, okay, how can we determine whether or not this suspension system works? So then I go through and I say, all right, how do we go through and develop a test where we account for different variable groups, control them, and all we're trying to test is, does the suspension work? So we set up a course in the parking lot. We use speedometers. We correct for tire size so that the bikes we're testing have the same tire size, the same wheelbase,
pressure.
Everything the same. And then we put measuring devices on the seat tube so that when the same rider, so same weight, hits the same course of bumps at the same speed, that sensor will give us objective feedback on how effectively it's working. And then I can plot those two lines and go, okay, here's the same course with the same rider, with the same tires, with the same front end. And here's that graph, and here's our graph. And that is objective feedback that you can do to find out, and that's proving function, right? Does my product work? The next step is comparing that to comparative models. So you can go through this entire research process. That's all firsthand research. That's also testing, right? That's firsthand testing. And then from that, you can develop talking points, marketing materials, all that kind of stuff. Is that a clear real world example?
Yes, and I think that's a little in the weeds for most of our
you said to make it real,
but hey, whatever, it's all good. So, and we agree on one thing, the comparative stuff. So when people ask me, how do you look at markets? How do you look at products that you're going to build? I do the 3-step macro, micro, comparative.
Yeah. Because
a lot of the people we talk to, entrepreneurs, idea inventors, they're getting into an industry, and we've discussed this on this episode a lot about you going from motorcycles to bicycles, right? Different universes, different lingo. Mm-hmm. It's like trying to play a sport. You have to look at the field. Like if we took people from pick another country, Russia, who had never seen a baseball field.
Soon to be America.
We're taking over Russia too?
They're taking over us.
Oh, another conspiracy. How many conspiracy theories can we get in this episode?
How much time you got?
According to the crew, 15 minutes and they're cutting us off.
Can't cut me off. Not with my Russian overlords. You don't tell me how much time I have.
So when you're looking at an invention or a business, you should look at the macro level of what industry you're jumping into. You can understand jargon. You can understand some of the rules. And then you start doing the micro in the sector you're playing in. And then the last piece is to compare. But not just compare what you're doing versus what other people are doing. Compare how other businesses in that sector work, how they sell, how they buy. Because you can steal, and I'll use the word steal, or we'll use borrow because we're kinder, gentler nation than what you want to become.
Russia. I don't want to be Russian. We're going to be Russian.
I don't even think that's a Russian accent.
Da, it's Russian. Yet?
I don't know.
See, already I'm ahead of you when they take over because I know 2 words. I'm with your methodology, but again, I think you have to go back to what stage of research are you doing? Even like saying know your industry. It's one thing for you to go, and this goes back to subjective versus objective. Subjectively, I could say I'm in the motorcycle bicycle industry, right? But there's methodologies for describing industries. There's NAICS codes, so you can go out and find
But they're also very confusing for most people.
Honestly, Bob, and you can get upset with me for this.
I never get upset.
If you can't handle looking up a NAICS code and seeing where you fit in.
Everyone does not have the numerous skill sets you have, T.
Bob,
there are many people out there just trying to get along.
Before we're flirting with a compliment here, we're real close to it. In all seriousness,
no, but
I'm not trying to be rude. Business isn't for everyone. If you cannot go, I can't figure out which industry code, NAICS code, SIC code, whatever it is I fit into, the rest of the research process is going to be tough.
But I'm not saying research to be an expert. I'm saying a research to figure out if that industry even matches what you're trying to do. Listen, we talk to a lot of people that have products sitting right over there that cannot tell us their market, cannot tell us their customers because they don't know what they're doing.
If you can't tell me what industry you're in, how could you possibly tell me which market segment?
But they build products. I'm staring at them.
That doesn't matter, though. You could build the best product in the world. If you don't know
So one goal for research. What should be the first goal? Anybody thinking about doing anything in business or an invention or a product creation? First goal of research. I think it should be getting an understanding of what industry they're jumping into, how they talk, what they talk about, what does it look like, the org structure.
You just named 9 things.
Well, that's one big thing.
My big thing is one thing. What's your research question?
So give them an example of one. Finish strong.
That's it. It's if you are going to start doing research.
Here, I got red Solo cup. What's my first research question?
What is the intended use of this cup? That's my research question. So now all the research I do behind that, keep in mind, is going to be secondhand research to start.
Yep.
You're going to look up articles other people wrote. Now, here's the difference between scholarly and non-scholarly, okay? An article on BuzzFeed about the top 10 ways that people use red Solo cups most likely isn't scholarly research.
But it might give you a good idea.
Right, but I'm saying it's important to know the difference between the two. Because, again, if I look up a study on suspension characteristics, if I look up a study on fatigue strength from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, where they fatigue tested a certain number of frames, they're going to have work cited, they're going to have a lit review, they're going to have scholarly information about how they developed their methods and means for their study and conducted it and got to the conclusion they got to, so I can know what was objective about this study, what was subjective, if anything. Looking up articles on Google and all this, and Wikipedia and all this stuff, it is a starting point.
Yes.
But it is very different than qualified research. And I don't care what anyone says, I will live and die on that hill. It is different.
I'm going to agree with you for the first time ever that Wikipedia, BuzzFeed, you name any of them, a great starting place, but most people, and I'll talk to them, stay there. And they cite it as Bible.
As chapter and verse.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
but
you
again,
can start there to get an understanding and get the hell off.
But you can't even do that part if you don't know your research question. If you don't know what the question is you're trying to answer, right? Developing a suspension system, there are a ton of questions to answer. You can't just tackle all of them in one. You have to break
Specific
them into
goals.
chunks and say, what is each, right? So the example I gave before about means and methodology of how we test the frame for is it working or is it not, that's one specific question. There are other questions that come from that, right? Because then you can get into the actual shock absorbers themselves and how they work and all that kind of stuff. And then there's things before that about market size, demo, market segment. What is the user profile that would want this bike? Because the features and benefits of our frame are tailored to that user group.
Right, and that's the biggest difference between hard products and the rest of the universe, is because there's so many variables that you have to go deep on.
You do.
Like even on this cup, you said one, my first thing is, does it fit a human hand? And does it leak?
But if you don't have an intended use case, maybe it doesn't have to fit a human hand.
No, but I'm saying my research for this red cup is because I'm thinking about the user and how I can sell it to them.
And my question is, what's the intended use? Because how could I know the user if I don't know the intended use?
Will
if the
it melt?
if the intended use is something where you never have to pick it up, or if the intended use is for it to travel and to go, well, now it has to fit into a cup holder. It has to do it. So the hand is less important than the cup holder. You know what I mean? So to me,
if it's in a cup holder, I got to pick it up eventually.
But you put a handle on it.
Oh, now you want to put a hand? I don't want another handle. I hate those handles.
But that's my point,
Yeti.
is that what is your intended use? Have a specific research question to start your research. Write it down. Don't just say, I want to look into this new thing. Say, this is my research question. How do people use plastic cups? Answer that question. You get an answer to that, and now you move into your next research question. And now, and I was kind of rude before about if you can't find your NAICS code, don't start.
That was rude.
But I'm okay with that, because let's say you want to buy an industry report, right? And I know
you shouldn't be buying reports yet. You shouldn't be buying reports yet.
I don't know. I don't. If you want to know honestly, market size, trend, things like that.
You don't need that at first. You don't need that at first.
But I'm saying at some point that is useful information.
But that's down the chain.
But if you cannot find out what industry you exist in, it's going to be hard to do everything else, including getting insurance.
They're not even starting a company. This is from our experience at First Strike and meeting people for the last 10 million years together. Most people don't even know how people solve whatever they're creating currently, because they haven't even looked at the universe.
Right, but
so that's where you start.
Listen,
like,
I'm
how
gonna
do
be
people
honest,
solve
you can't,
this problem? I'm going to make a new cup.
I used to
How
work.
do people use cups?
I used to work with someone that used to say this all the time, and I go back to this frequently. You can't fix stupid. You can only numb it with a 2x4. Okay, that's a truth.
So I'm just going to say this crew is going to be here for the next 24 hours as we continue this battle.
I'm here for it. So we'll pick it up in episode 2, whatever episode this is, part 2.
Part 2?
Part 2, yeah.
Is there a code for that?
Yeah, 2 is the code.